Hi, everyone. Welcome to eLearnChat, where you always learn something new, or at least we hope you do. I'm Rick Zanotti, and I am joined today by the Lady Lesley Price. She's joining us from outside of London, our little Scottish co-host, and she is with LearnAppeal, www.learnappeal. Do we have that website up?
Yeah, that's
.learnapeal.com.
it.
And Leslie, you have some good news about some exciting news. A new
Oh,
capsule was put out there.
yeah, very, very exciting. We've launched a capsule in a school in Nigeria.
Nice.
And I think you possibly met Colin Zabudo when you might not remember, but I
I
think you met him
I think I
when you were
did.
in London. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
He's
tall,
from
right? A
Nigeria.
taller guy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And he launched it and he even managed to get a 30-minute slot on TV
Nice.
in Nigeria.
Nice.
So talking about the problems they've got, talking about the capsule, and they were inundated with calls. So yeah,
Well, good
we're
news.
growing.
Good news, and congratulations on that. It's one new country.
Yeah, yeah, another new country.
Yep.
Yeah.
That sounds great. And joining us today is Harold Muliati. He is running the video switcher and mixer. And a great friend is joining us today as well, Ajay Pangarkar. He's coming to us from Eastern Canada. So here we go. This show is sponsored by Relate Corporation at www.relate.com, your training and video partner. And we are back, and there is Ajay in that center position of power. How are you, Ajay?
I'm doing well, and of course, I'm doing even better. I'm here with you and the great Lesley Price, of course.
Thank you.
How can my day get any better than this? By the way,
Oh, and I'm looking forward to
Well,
the weekend. I
you
just
could
found
have
out
you could have your lovely wife there because
that's true.
Ajay and I realized when we were looking back at our family trees that his wife and I are actually related in
That's
the very
interesting.
dim distant past.
That's
and
interesting.
my little dark secret that Lesley knows is that I want to become Scottish. So there's another fun fact. I want a Scottish brogue. So
That's funny. Now, are you part Scottish? A little
me,
bit? No, just that was just
me,
Terry, right?
no. That's Terry. Terry's half
Nobody's wife
Scottish
is.
and
Yeah,
half
yeah.
Italian. Her background,
Oh, yeah,
and
no,
I'm
that is
just
a
half.
scary combination there. It's yeah,
Yeah, it was a perfect marriage.
Oh,
We always said that
yeah.
your grandfather knew how to drink, and the grandmother knew how to make it. So that was
Oh,
perfect.
that's funny.
Yeah.
no, but Scottish, there's a huge Italian tradition in Scotland.
Hmm.
Massive. They make,
What's that?
honestly, in Scotland, they make the second best ice cream outside of Italy.
Interesting.
Really?
Gelato.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just drinking when I was there, so it doesn't matter.
Oh no. You mean to say you never tried proper ice cream?
Proper ice cream.
Proper
Oh,
ice cream.
Well, you know,
proper ice.
a friend of mine was telling me the other day. I was thinking, I said, we need to get a small dog. We've always had big dogs, and he goes, rubbish. You want a proper dog? A proper dog, right? You know, and I just love the way the Brits say things should be proper. A proper dog, a proper ice cream. I think that's such a great way of saying something. But you know, and since last we talked, Ajay, we were actually in London for the Learning Technology show, and I loved London. It was just great. Leslie did too. We had a great time there. My Leslie, and then we even went
Yeah.
to Leslie's house in London. We just had a good time. London's a great place.
Yeah, I was there in 2018 for LTUK, and
Yeah.
that's where I got to
Yeah.
connect in person with Lesley and a bunch of other great people over there. And I just have to say, I'll say this, and I hope I don't insult people on this side of the pond, but going there, being at LTUK, interacting with these people in the learning business, there's just this sense of maturity and discussion that happens, and
Passion.
I really enjoyed myself.
Passion.
well, not just passion. There was just
Yeah.
like you can have a really good, insightful discussion, and I know
Yeah.
Lesley and I did. I've had with a number of other people there. It was refreshing. And so, apart from the city being great and the country being fantastic, just the L&D people
It's
is just
different.
for me. Just it was a level of
Yeah.
maturity that I haven't seen in a long time.
No, I agree. In fact,
And it's
I
funny,
came
and
back.
Patty Shank says exactly the same, and so does Shannon Tipton. They both
Yeah.
say Patty was absolutely amazed when she came to London, to the show. She just says, I can't believe it. The people that I talk to there actually know what I'm talking about.
Yep. Yep. And I felt the same
Yep.
way when I was there. I just went, yeah, this is fun. The people are really into it. And again, not to insult anybody here, it's different. It's a different mindset. And it was just a lot of fun. I came back pretty supercharged from it, going, this was great. And it just is what it
But
is.
it's funny because I got to speak last year at some wonderful conferences. So I got to speak in the UK, I got to speak in Australia, and both those instances were very insightful for me. Even though I was invited as the guest expert, I learned a lot, and more than I would say in other instances that I've encountered at other areas or parts of the world that I've spoken
Which
at.
is
So
fun. It is fun. And
yeah, yeah.
that's why we always bring you on, because you always add a lot to the show. You do.
Well, okay, well.
You
There,
do.
I got you fooled too. Good. That's
Well, also,
fantastic.
Ajay just gave us some real good news a couple of minutes ago, pre-show. He's going to be in our town, real close to our town this weekend. So we're hoping to see him maybe Saturday night or Sunday. So
Exactly.
that'll be a blast. I can't wait to see you again. And is Terry coming?
Yes, she is. We're going to be there for I think this is going to be our 5th course for LinkedIn Learning
Nice,
on
nice. Which one are you doing
establishing.
now?
It's basically a fundamental course speaking about how to fundamentally evaluate your courses at various levels of evaluation.
Nice.
So it's meant
Okay.
to be a 30-minute course that's going to get people who are new to especially new to the business, who are just a little overwhelmed about how to prove their learning actually works. Some like a cheat sheet or a half-hour cheat sheet where people can go in and just get some quick skills and they don't have to do a dissertation on how to evaluate learning. This is what that course is about. So we're going in early next week to record it. Yeah.
That's great. That'll be fun. That'll be fun.
I'll let you know when it's out. And
Yeah. How many have you done so far? About 4 or 5?
this one is 4. I think this is the 5th one.
This is the 5th one.
I mean, I have other news too. They are actually bringing me on to do stuff outside of the L&D business. And it's going to be around my first love, which is around finance and accounting. And I'm developing one of their first courses around cost estimating. And so that's in the works for next spring.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's funny because that's one area where a lot of L&D people have no clue. Money, numbers.
Yep.
I think we've had this conversation before about ROI. A lot of people in L&D think, you can't put an ROI on anything. It's like, really? Honestly, tell that to the accounting folks. They don't really quite believe you. And you're not going to get unlimited money just because there's no ROI. There is an ROI. It just may be harder to pinpoint in some places, but if you're working in ops, there's an ROI. You can justify that real quickly because you'll see the improvements, or you should see the improvements.
But you know
What
where
I
I stand.
always say, what I've always said is that my personal belief is that L&D people should actually be working on the front line with the teams in ops, not backstage in HR.
Right, that's
and
correct.
if they actually worked more on the front line in operations, they would be part of that. So therefore, our ROI would just be what they do as a natural. It would just be what they do.
Yeah.
It would just be part of the job.
I've always said, and I concur with you, Lesley, 100%. What I do, and I get these calls all the time because I don't necessarily get called in by L&D to speak to L&D. It's usually the operational side who say to me, go talk to L&D. And I've done this on a couple of occasions. I've taken them on what I call operational field trip. If you have to know your customer and you have to know their needs. And
Yeah.
Get out there and stop waiting for them to come to you because you claim you're order takers. And if you want to shed that title, you need to go out and be proactive partners. To your point, Lesley, you need to go and experience what's going on firsthand in the operations to be able to address the issues that they're under pressure to
Yeah.
address. And so it's fundamental. I'm not a rocket scientist here. I'm not saying something that's an epiphany. This is just common sense. I mean, you and I buy products all the time, and we buy products to solve our problems or address a need. And we just don't willy-nilly say, okay, we're just going to buy this for no reason. Well, mind you, some people do that, but you know what I mean? Like we buy something to solve or resolve an issue or meet a need. And L&D has to learn to do that. And I know people get their feathers ruffled when I say things like this, but you're not going to get any level of respect from operations if you don't get out there and get your hands dirty. So yeah.
Yeah, the more you know
agree.
about their business, the better off you are.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, Rick, you said about ROI, and here's where my hairs on the back go up. I'm not against the term ROI. I'm a CPA by heart, by profession. And when we start tossing, and I think I used this analogy last time, we're like the nerds in the schoolyard trying to be part of the cool kids. Yeah. And we catch on to a phrase that the cool kids are using, and we go in and start using it then, and the cool kids look at us and say, you're not using it properly. And that's what's ROI is getting us into trouble. ROI, and anybody, and again, I always disclose this, I do not have a methodology. I tell people, open a business textbook or a finance textbook or an accounting textbook or look at any accounting principles. ROI is never measured on a cost center, ever. And so when you speak to your business leader and say, we're going to provide an ROI, their mind switches because they're programmed that way or they're educated that way to think of ROI in a very specific context and the calculation. And as soon as you use a word of ROI within a cost center, whether it be production, L&D, HR, marketing, whatever it is, you are using it incorrectly. I understand what people are saying and saying that semantics, Ajay. We're saying that we're going to prove there's value to our learning. Yeah, but then say that. Don't say ROI. That's the slight difference.
So what is interesting, I did one of the management consulting tips on this. And by the way, Ajay has also done management consulting tips on that part of our
I should do more.
YouTube.
I'm sorry,
do as many as you
down.
want. Yeah. We had a lot of people who committed to it, and I think it was you, Susan Nash, and me were the only ones who did it. So hopefully some other people get involved with it.
I'm going to do more.
Yeah, they're
I'm going
fun.
to do more.
They're fun. Yours was great. But the one I was talking about was you're not a cost center. Don't think like a cost center. Because in essence, if you're an ops and you're doing things right, you're part of the profit. You're part of, if you can train 1,000 people and those people now are saving the company thousands and thousands or maybe millions of dollars because of that training, you're part of the profit. You're not necessarily a cost center. I used to go through that with IT as well. When I was a VP of IT, people would say I was a cost center. I go, oh, you want to bet? I turn off the computer. You're dead. I'm not a cost center. Every penny you spend on us is part of your profits. And they would go, okay, we'll buy that. And for the most part, it works.
Rick, listen, I agree with that statement. However, here's where I'll sort of push back a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
When you're talking to operational managers that have formal business educations and in finance or whatever, they are told and educated to look at things a certain way. And I agree with you 100%. So I don't want to take away from your statement. There's nothing wrong with your statement. I say that all the time. You are contributing to that outcome or that profit. However, the accounting side of things, when an operational manager looks at it, there's a difference. Again, let me step back for a second. My mind is racing a little faster in my mouth right now. When an operational manager looks or tries to categorize the performance of an activity, whether it be a cost center, a profit center, or an investment center, their mind immediately goes in a certain way to calculate this. And so when you're talking to those people, you have to recognize that you're talking to them, you have to talk to them in their language or in a language that they're interpreting it as. So the problem with the word cost center, it takes on a negative connotation and most people take it that way. But from a business perspective, when somebody says to me, I'm a cost center, my mind as an accounting professional goes into a different mode about what I'm supposed to expect as an output. Not to cut costs or whatever, but what value are you driving to the organization? Because a cost center, let me be, controversial here. I wrote an article for, it's going to be published soon, for eLearning industry. A cost center is actually under less pressure than a profit center to produce results.
That's true.
Because they don't have a direct correlation or direct relationship to the profit. They have an indirect causal relationship to it. Because you can't say training, I can improve you, Rick. Yeah, and you're right. I can improve the skills of you and Lesley, and you could be wonderful people in whatever I trained you to do. And you could be doing that for years. However, can I legitimately say that in 5 years from now that training you took 5 years ago from me has any really direct correlation to the output? Causally, yes. Direct correlation, no. And that's where we have to be careful. If you start painting yourself in a corner by taking credit, better take credit when you fail. So that's what I'm saying.
It's interesting. It's interesting you mentioned the word translator, because that's what I always say. That is an absolutely integral skill that all learning and development people should have. They need to be translators. They need to speak the language of the learner. They need to speak the language of ops. They also need to speak the language of the senior management team so that they can talk to them in their language. So being a translator is actually, incredibly important. And I just think that sometimes it's a bit like, I always say that L&D people should also have marketing skills, because at the end of the day, they're marketing internally. And if they don't realize that, then what happens? How do they get people? How do they get buy-in, either from the financial folk or the senior management or operations? They need marketing skills, but trying to get that across is not always easy.
No, and they need to be proactive. Marketing, in essence, is kind of a proactive function, sort of. So they have to go out there and get clients, not just wait for the client, but go get the client. And that doesn't always wash too well, because they go, we don't have to get people. We're special. They have to come to us. No, they don't. And just look at, like we've always said for years, look at layoffs. Who gets laid off first? Marketing and training. Those are the two. Sales is usually probably about third. And then it's really in trouble when sales goes. But it's just sort of interesting. And Ajay, you made one point that's really interesting, because you said, and this is something most people don't think about. You said 5 years from now. And I'd say in today's day and age, we're lucky people even think 1 or 2 years from now, because of the volatility of everything and how fast everything changes. But you're right. I remember when I was studying accounting and everything, it was 5 years was a norm. What are we going to do within 5 years? And in a development cycle, for example, in tech products, when we see a new product, it's probably been out there 5 or 10 years in development. But now we're seeing it. And accounting and R&D firms is even worse, because they don't know if it's even going to make money one day. Nothing's a profit center yet when you're in kind of an R&D mode. So it's sort of interesting. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said, to your point, what we do is invest in the future. Our role is to invest, and most cost centers are like that.
Yeah.
People don't realize that cost centers of an organization, if you look at an organizational value chain, and people don't know what that is, go and do Michael Porter value chain in Google, and you'll find out what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But an organizational value chain is basically the primary processes of an organization. And that's the primary, but there's secondary support systems, which are typically the cost centers. And the leading organizations today actually flip that. They realize that their primary activities are the outputs and drive the profit to the organization and the revenues. However, they realize that it's the supporting activities that drive the value to make those profits and revenues. And I can name companies right now. You can speak, they will never acknowledge this publicly, but this is what they do internally. Companies like Apple or Starbucks. I always said Starbucks is a knowledge company, and people don't believe me. No, they're a coffee company. No. When you order your tall, skinny latte, pumpkin spice grande, whatever it is they call it, and 3 minutes later, it's at the end of the counter perfectly made, and it doesn't matter if you order it in London, if you order it in LA, or if you order it here in Ottawa. It's exactly consistent. That is about how well their L&D, to Leslie's point before, connects to the operations to drive that value. Again, it is a causal relationship, because you have to put that knowledge in that barista, whether in whatever city, to be able to do that consistently. That's people. I don't know about you, but that blows my mind. That I can go to UK and order the same coffee exactly the same way as I could in Montreal or Toronto. I mean, that blows my mind.
Now, to add to that, no, I grew up in places where coffee was pretty good, and I still marvel at the fact people like Starbucks. I think it's some of the worst coffee ever made, but that's me.
No.
But that's me.
My friend Con Sotitis?
Yes.
Do you know Con?
Yeah. I know Con.
Okay,
he's been on the show too.
I know Con.
You and Con should have a website against Starbucks. I know that.
Oh, it's
Con
awful.
is adamant about it.
Oh, it's my gosh! It's if you get an espresso. Oh.
Rick, you missed the point. You missed the point.
No, I get the point. I do get the point. I just marvel at what
I
what
don't
people
drink coffee. I don't drink coffee ever, so I wouldn't know. I only drink tea and wine.
Yeah. Well, they have Tivana. Well, they do have Tivana. Remember that, which is some of the worst tea I've ever had. But that's another issue. They over caffeinate.
We're going down the rabbit hole now.
It's that rabbit hole. Okay, let's come on back. So what else have you been up to? Because I know you are always busy with new things and not just training and stuff. And one of the things I really like about you is you are a learning professional, but you have a solid foundation in finance, economics, accounting, and know how to position the training. And I think that's one of the keys probably to your success is you can cross that chasm of L&D somewhere out there, pontificating, and reality. And
well, the way it came about is actually very simple. It's the way I got into this, and I think most of us who get into L&D, and I guess most of us of our generation, I guess maybe I'll qualify it a bit. Most of us fell backwards into it, and same thing here. And the reason I'm looking at it this way, and what people don't realize is I'm not being, I will use more polite words. I'm not being I can't find a polite word for it, but. It's a family show, so I'll abbreviate an a-hole. But
a plonker. There you go, a good British word, a plonker.
Wow, okay, you got to teach me more, Lesley.
Plonker.
I'm a plunker. Okay.
Plonker or a prat. You're not being a prat or a plonker.
Okay, I'm not being a plunker, but here we go. So early in my career, I was working for a Fortune 50 company, their head office in Montreal, and I was going up that ladder relatively quickly. I was heading up a division to support some major products or the organization, and I had a staff. And my boss used to come to me and quarterly or monthly, whatever it was, send the staff to training. Right, and this is back in the early '90s when e-learning was really not around. So I would send them to training, right, and they would come back, and guess what, right? To all our knowledge, they would sit there and they would go back into their old habits. Mm-hmm. Okay. This happens repeatedly. And then one time I just stood up to my boss and saying, you're telling me to send them to training, but I'm not going to until you can tell me or prove to me that when they get back here, they will help me improve my performance outcomes. Because when it comes to performance review time at the department and my performance, I got, basically reamed out by you each time because we're not meeting certain targets. But apparently they're going to training to get these new skills to help me do this. And then, of course, add to the pain to the facts that I'm getting money out of my budget that I'm paying for these people's training that I'm not getting any value for. Mm-hmm. So I flipped it. I said, well, okay, I was on that side of the desk being very critical as an operational manager. So my message to L&D is really not an insult. It's actually, I really want them to succeed. Yep. So let's meet the need of the customer. And your customer is that internal customer to me, that old manager that has pressure on meeting performance expectations for the organization. And if you're not contributing to that, get out of my office because I'm not spending money on you, period. And so that's where my crossing the chasm kind of thing comes from, is from that mindset. And it's called tough love, whatever you want. People get really annoyed with me sometimes. Lesley knows this, but I don't care. At the end of the day, I know I'm doing the right thing to get them to add value, and that's really what I want them to do. I want them to succeed, not fail.
Yeah, and that's good.
I totally agree, Ajay. I talk to people all the time, and they say, "Oh, how did you get doing what you're doing? What's your background?" I'm actually a lapsed economist. I taught applied business economics and marketing, and it was because of people's lack of understanding of applied business economics and marketing. Trying to teach that to students was so difficult. That's why I started. You try to teach students, 17, 18-year-olds about applied business economics. It blows their brain. So I started using technology to support their learning back in the early 1990s, just because, and also marketing. I used to say to them, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to go home tonight. I want you to watch some soap operas on television. And then I want you to come back, next time we have a class, and tell me what products that you've actually seen in these television programs. What products have you seen sitting on the tables? What products have you seen? And they're going, but why? I said, because that product placement.
Yep.
Getting on, if it's a TV soap and they pick up a bottle of sauce and they're opening it, or a tin of beans, or a coffee, a Starbucks. You look at any of the programs now, all these programs we've got, and people wander around on, all the big TV programs with these, paper cups or whatever they've got in them. They've all got little brand names on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it sells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes a difference.
One of my first boss, and I lived by this motto all my life, actually works in personal arguments with your significant other, or if you were trying to convince him to buy something. My boss taught me, it was industrial sales, and he taught me, sell the customer what they want to buy, not what you want to sell.
That's true.
And I reflected on that as basically it's helped them solve a problem. And so I live by that philosophy, even when when I'm trying to convince my wife and my business partner Teresa to buy a more expensive car, right? So it's like I position it where it's the benefit of solving her problem, right? Type of thing. But I'm going a little side note here, but basically it's about relationship building and problem solving is what it is.
And it is funny with salespeople. A lot of them think they have to talk nonstop while they're selling, and they're not listening. And so people come to, let's say, a car dealership. You go to a Lexus dealership. You go in and you say, I'm looking for an SAV. And they go, we have a great sale on this sports coupe. And the guy says, I want an SAV. No, I think you really should have a family car. And he leaves. And the guy would have had an instant sale just by saying, here's the SAV. Oh, great. I like it. I'll buy it. No, instead they have to talk you out of it because they think, and you just go. I went to a dealership one time. This was it was a Porsche dealership, and I was actually considering getting one of the Porsches, and then this other little weird car which I used to own for a short time, which was an Isuzu Impulse, was right there too at the same dealership, and I was going, what the heck is that? It looks like a Porsche. It was designed by Giorgetto Giugiaro, who's a famous Italian designer. I think he's either dead or retired now. Wonderful designer. And he designed cars for Porsche, and he also designed the Isuzu Impulse to look like a Porsche, but with a gutless wonder engine. So I walked in, and I've got shorts on, a tank top. I was not, it was just on a whim. I was driving by, said, let me stop by and take a look. And the guy's looking at me, this really old guy, and he's going, so at first I asked about the Impulse, and I go, what is that? He goes, that's an Isuzu Impulse. I go, I like it. It's pretty cool looking. I go, looks like a Porsche. And then I saw the Porsche 924 or something. I can't remember what it was. And it was pretty. And I go, hey, how much is that one? And the guy goes, oh, you couldn't afford that. And I looked at him. I go, you know what? You don't know what I could or couldn't afford. But I'll
Oh,
tell
love
you
it.
one thing, I'm not buying here. And I left. It's like, what kind of idiot
Oh,
tells you you can't? I worked in Beverly Hills for many years as a loan. I was a credit analyst and working in the loan department of a big Japanese American bank. And you would not be the people who came in worth millions to hundreds of millions or billions. You'd never know. They had nothing to prove. They were just what they were. And people would think, well, that guy looks like a bum. That guy is worth $2 billion. A what? And so as a sales rep, dumb. You never tell somebody you couldn't afford that. How do you know?
right, because that takes you back, Rick, to what the phrase my first ever boss told me when I was 17. To assume makes an ass out of
Yes.
you and me.
Yep.
And he taught me that when I was 17, and I will never ever ever forget it. And that has now stuck with me for 40 years.
Yeah.
And it's so right.
It
You
is.
know, and here's the problem with L&D, and I say that deliberately because I hope to get people to react to this webcast and make comments because that starts a conversation. And even if they're against me, that's fine. But problem with L&D is they're not listening to the customer. They're doing what that Porsche dealer did to you, or
Mm-hmm.
that Lexus dealer did to the other customer, saying, no, this is what you want.
Yeah.
No, I understand you understand learning, but here's what I need to solve. So listen to the customer and then craft something that helps and solves the customer. So what is that going to do for you? What that's going to do, that's going to give you a wealth of information to target your learning exactly to where they need it. You become, rather than do a shotgun, and you've heard Harold Stolovich say, this the spray and pray approach kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's I call it the sniper approach. I mean, I hate to use that analogy, but it is what it is. You are, a sniper
Yeah.
really targets exactly what they want to hit.
Yeah.
They don't go shooting willy-nilly anywhere to hope to hit something.
Yep.
They just go after that, and they get it, and they're very precise, they're very targeted, and that's what we need to do with learning. And if you want to start yabbering on about micro learning and all that BS out there that is just
Mm-hmm.
fancy terms for things that we should have always been doing, or gamification, those tools are meant to target exactly where learning needs to be. And gamification, to Lesley, to your point, is just like product placement.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Yeah.
you're targeting exactly what they need to learn, when they need to learn it, and you're getting them a little bit, excuse my expression, fooled that they're learning something playing I would say playing a game. That's wrong, because Carl Kopp is going to be all over me on this one. I love Carl, by the way. But it's like gamification is not gaming. I get it, but gamification is also making it more enticing to be able to learn something.
Yeah.
So, and that's what it is. So if we're not listening to the customer, then I agree. Let's cut learning out altogether, because if you're not listening to me, I'm going elsewhere to solve my problem.
Yeah.
Period.
It's true.
But you're going to get a lot of comments because of what I just said.
Yeah, it's really true. And also the whole trend of relabeling everything that's been around for how many years, and it has a new name now. Everything has a new name. Every 5 years, it's a brand new name. And it's just like, but you know what that is? That's the L&D inferiority complex. There's always that. It's I to this day hear people go, well, e-learning is new. In whose book? Where have you been the last 40 years? It's not new. It's been around. It's just new to you. And you just always hear that, well, it's brand new. Since when? And LMSs are new, really. Everything is new. But it's that inferiority complex of, well, they don't respect us enough, and so we want to make things up that are new to make it sound more exciting. That's
but then
reality.
you should be stepping up to the plate and earning that respect.
Yes.
Because for me, respect is not given, respect is earned. That's the only way it's going to add any value.
Yeah.
Nothing is new, and I get, call it for better or worse. I get to work with organizations, very progressively minded organizations, and even if they're not at the point where they should be, they're actually thinking to go in that direction.
Yeah.
These people rarely ever cut their L&D budgets. Actually, I have clients who actually invest significantly more money during downtimes because they know the uptimes they need to have their staff and people prepared to attack the market.
But they're definitely looking ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not, it's to them L&D, and L&D has proven in that those organizations that they are partners, that they are proactive partners. They know they're contributing to the outcomes of that organization, whether it be profit, revenue, market share, whatever it is. They know that role, and they are very targeted in their approach. And so people, cried on my shoulder, on your shoulder about these things, saying, we're a cost center, they cut us, blah, 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 they don't respect us. It's like, yeah, because that's the culture of the organization, and culture has a lot to do with it. And so it's twofold. Either you have to prove yourself, and the leadership, of course, has to see the value and change the culture to make it happen.
Yep, that's true.
Uh-oh.
Well, I think that music is telling
We're
us
running out of time.
We're only about 10 minutes out of time, so we're good. We could go on forever with Ajay.
That's because we've got Ajay and I here. Ajay and I go back a long way.
Yeah. And we could definitely go on for an hour
listening.
or two or more. It's just that then we lose all the viewers after about who knows how long. But no, these are some good points. And as always, Ajay, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. And I'm looking forward to seeing you this weekend. That'll be
Absolutely
fun. And I'm thinking maybe dinner. There's a really good, if you like Italian food, and Terry's part Italian, we have a place called Bistro 13, which has really good Italian food, and they treat you.
Okay.
It's a really good business restaurant. They open after 4 o'clock Saturday, Sunday, but we'd love to take you there. It'll be fun.
Excellent. And it's great to see you, Rick, and I'll see you this weekend. And Leslie, it's always a joy to see you.
Yeah,
always.
I know. Same with you. Same with you.
Leslie, we're going to watch a special. We were looking at Prime, Amazon Prime, and they have a thing on the history of the Celts, and we're going, let's find out what really makes Lesley tick.
Just
because
watch Braveheart.
I am a Celt. I am a Celt through and through.
Through and through.
Absolutely.
I got to bring my claymore
Through
in. I
and
keep
through.
forgetting. I have a sword. I have one of the William Wallace swords, a real one. It's actually battle ready. And she keeps saying, bring it in. I always forget. And I'm a little afraid that if I carry it in the car, somebody will stop us and go, why are you carrying a William Wallace sword? It's a hobby.
Well, it's like, there's me at my age, and I've still got my red hair, and I don't dye it. It's, true born Scot, and still got the Scottish accent.
I love that country.
Yeah, I've never been to Scotland. One day. Barely been to England.
Next time.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, have a good one, everyone.
Lovely
Thanks
chatting.
for being here. Thank you,
Thanks, guys.
Ajay.
Take care, and thanks for joining the show.
Yep. Have
Thanks a
great
lot,
one.
guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.